Babe, Act 1, Scene 3, Dr. Davis. Hello, babe. Our last session ended with the 70s, so why don't we start with the 60s? Are you ready? Babe, sounds okay to me. Dr. Davis. When I tell you, you'll go back to the 60s. Ready? Go. Babe. Oh my goodness, riots are breaking out all over the country. President John F. Kennedy was killed in Dallas, and our beloved Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was shot down at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. And Senator Robert Kennedy was killed while on the campaign trail. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Now it's 1950s, and I'm living on the northwest side of Indianapolis in a nice neighborhood. I met Octavia Caroline Kadosia, who lives next door, and we spend hours talking. She's a widow with a lot of time on her hands. She hovers over me like a mother hen, but I enjoy her company. It's 1949, and it's a wonderful time. Lester has a good job at the gas plant, and his father loans him some money for a car. I'm 3 months pregnant with our 7th child. Lester drives up in this shiny 1939 Ford. He asked to take me for a ride. I run in the house and throw on my yellow dress. Yellow is my favorite color. I tell Junior to watch the kids for 10 minutes while I ride around the block in our new car. It's 1941, and World War II is still raging. It's lasted about 5 years, but it seems like it's been forever. Lester goes to the southern part of Indiana to be a part of the Civilian Conservation Corps, better known as the CCC camp. It was a requirement of men not sent to battle due to family obligations. Class 4F. And we had what you call victory gardens, or small plots of land with fruits and vegetables. These were maintained by the women and children since the men had gone off to war. Yeah, Lester is so proud of his service to the United States. His daddy served in World War I in Europe. His name was Lincoln Pearl. It's 1939, and Junior is born just before the war breaks out. I gained about 20 pounds during this pregnancy, and I'm so upset when I don't lose it right away. It's 1934, and Lester Pearl has asked me to marry him. I've known him practically all my life. He lives directly behind my house. I used to see him sometimes walking up and down the dusty roads, loaded down with newspapers. We've gone for walks around the neighborhood, and Daddy says it's okay for us to marry. Mama cries and says I'm not ready. I'm 17 and Lester's 19. Mama wants to make me a white wedding dress, but I insist on yellow. I'm thin, shapely, but thin. I'll look lovely in a yellow wedding gown. The year is 1922, and my family and I are moving to Indiana from Georgia. My mother and father, sisters, brothers, grandparents, maternal great-grandparents, and a few other family came by train. Mom and Daddy are so sad when they see the colored drinking fountains. They thought things were going to be different up here, but no, everything's the same. Maybe even worse. We don't have the plantations up here, but the invisible walls are still here. It's March 18, 1922, and we're on a northbound train headed to Indiana. It's thundering and lightning and raining something terrible. Seems like we are riding this train forever. The train stops in small towns and we get off to use the restroom. We get water if we're near an unattended well. A lot of folks is crying and we're all afraid. Somebody is accused of trespassing on a farm near the Kentucky border. Some white men are chasing us all back to the train. They're shooting and cussing. One man is bleeding and the women are hovered over him, tending to his wounds. Something they do all too often. And they're singing an old Negro spiritual, Near the Cross. Dr. Davis. Babe, wake up. Babe, how'd I do, Doc? Dr. Davis. You did just fine, babe. I'm going to make a few notes and then I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you okay with that? Babe, I guess so. Dr. Davis. Babe, can you remember the train now that you're awake? Babe. I remember Mama. She was telling me to go to sleep. I was holding my head. It was hurting so bad. I'd never felt pain like that before. You know what, Dr. Davis? My head hurts now just like it did on the train in 1922. Dr. Davis. Do you want to go in the other room and lie down, babe? Babe. Oh no, I don't want to do that. You know I'm going to tell Octavia about this visit. She'll hit the ceiling if she find out I laid on that couch. I'll just go and sit in the lobby until my daughter comes to pick me up. Octavia. I'm glad I got here. He was going to try to put you back in there on that couch and put another hex on you. And I told you not to mention me in these meetings. Dr. Davis. Babe, were you just talking to someone? Babe. Yes, my friend Octavia. She follows me around to keep me out of trouble. It's as if I can hear her scolding me. She's a good friend. She's a poet, too. She wrote this lovely poem about Black folks, and I always carry it with me. Would you like to hear it, Dr. Davis? Dr. Davis. Yes, babe, I'd love to hear it. Babe. Pearls from Octavia Caroline Cadosia. I spec it hard being colored, but some of y'all got it a mite too easy. Some things God do to learn you something. You know he mighty cure you like that. Take the warm water from the colored fountain. It won't never cold, but it flowed enough to put out my thirst. That learned me that sometimes what God got for you might not always taste good at first swallow, but if you give it time to get down in your belly, it's sure gonna do what God intended it to do. And eating what the white folks throwed out, that made Mama the best cook this side of heaven. Her meals put the flying in the angels' wings and the melody in the songs they sings. That learned me everything I need to know about stretching a meal, stretching a dollar, and that food is more than something you eat, but a way to show how deep you love. Sitting on the back of that bus, I reckon was the hardest thing, but it learned me a whole heap. God learned me he had something bigger and something better for me, and I was just seats away from it. Yeah, it was a mite hard being colored, but what God learned me and give me when we was colored, well, I spec in a way I can say them some good old days. Some of y'all got it a bit too easy, and some of y'all ain't got it yet.